Okay, I think we can start. What do you think? So we can have more time for the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, good. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Q&A session, When Animation Meets Femininity, with director Hefang Wei. And you've already briefly met Hefang already before we start. So I hope you all enjoy the films. I'm Xiang Fan, the host of this event. And also I'm the UK-China Film Collab's Women in the Film Industry project curator. So focusing on the question of what it means to be a woman working in the male-dominated film industry and a patriarchal society, this project aims to bring more Chinese female filmmakers' works to the UK audience. Please note this session is recorded. You can turn off your camera function if you don't want to be recorded. And please also turn off your microphone off during the speakers speak. So to ask questions, you can either raise your hand or you can post your question in the chat box. So when the floor discussion is open, I will facilitate the discussion. And also today's session is also co-organized by Fei Tian. Fei is doing her MA in Cultural and Creative Industries in the University of Sussex. And Fei has over 8 years of working experience in cinema management in China. Fei will help me facilitate the Q&A session. So Fei.
Hi everyone, I'm Fei, the co-organizer of this event. Next, I'm proud to introduce director Hefang Wei. She is animation film director, producer, and academic. Her films have been selected and awarded in many international film festivals. She has worked on lots of projects for Chinese and European television stations. And she is also a lecturer at New York University and other universities worldwide. We are honored to have her here today to share her films and experience as a female filmmaker. Now, welcome to the director Hefang Wei.
Again. Hi, thank you everyone for spending your time watching short animated film, and came here to this room that exchange a little bit. Well, as Fei introduced, I'm Chinese original and living in France about 16 years, I guess. I mostly work in animated films. As you just watched the two shorts, which is made in 2012 for the Banquet of the Concubine, and Bird Flu was in 2016. And other couple of short films, probably you can find it online, typing my name. What else? I can say? Maybe we can talk about the films that you have watched if you want. And if you have other questions, I think it's easier that I just answer you than just fly to many different directions. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. Our project is about women in the film industry, and you produced a lot of films about women. So I would like to know, as a female director, do you think you have more advantages to interpret women's emotions? And do you think it's also an advantage for you in a male-dominated film industry?
Well, it's really a hot topic at the moment, as we can hear. To be honest, I didn't notice that I am a woman. I was just making films. And when we start to talk about this topic, female in the cinema institute, and it was first time I touched in this topic. It was probably 15 years ago when I came to France. Actually, I wasn't very sensitive about this topic. I was thinking, as I'm making film, so what's the difference? And I didn't really feel that there is something unfair. As a female filmmaker, I had the right to make the film. I got the finance in France. Everything just looked quite fair for me. But somehow, I mean, while we're exchanged with other filmmakers, I just noted that the short films I made, actually, it happens quite often. I'm talking about woman's story. As we have seen, lots of protagonists, the main character, the hero, in a big production, it happens quite often, it's men. And I really start to ask these kind of questions. It's something I think is quite normal. And we have a word in French, it's légitimité. I just learned it in English, it's legitimacy, if I pronounce it well. I think naturally we talk about the topic that we, about who we are and what we're interested in our life. So as I am a woman, of course, I think the things that I'm thinking, it's more girly than men, but not only, I guess. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what I feel about this this question.
Thank you.
Just to add another one, I work also with some other nationality filmmakers. I mean, some they from Iran, and I just noted that people from Iran, it happens quite often that they make story about the war. Some quite hard story, and to some people, some friends, they have African or origin. Their main character, it happens also, it's a Black people. So I think we just try to tell our story and to be honest and to feel that to feel free to talk things close us. Probably this becomes me to hear. That's it. I don't know what you think about this.
Okay, I think the floor discussion is open, and I think we have one audience wanted to ask question. This is Liu Ya Wen.
Yes, I'm Yawen. I'm the student from London Film School. I'm also a female producer. I want to say I really love the bird flu because you know I'm very surprised to find that this short film was made in 2016, and I even thought it was made after the epidemic, the COVID-19. I saw the cultural elements of the East and West in this short film. So my first question is, I want to ask the director, how do you blend the Eastern and Western culture well?
Thank you for your question, Yawen. Well, again, to be honest, I didn't do something more than what I feel to do. It's just I came to France at 22 years old. I bring 20 years old my culture, and it's from a small city in western of China. So I couldn't even say that that's the Chinese whole Chinese culture. So when I work with a team, my team it's European actually. So which is interesting that when we start to work, when we start to communicate, try to make each other understand what we want, that from then things is becomes more interesting that you can see behind everybody there is different culture. You have different way to act. Let's say that to act, to transfer yourself. I mean, as it's a teamwork, there's something that as a director I want to talk, but there's also a space for the team, everyone, to put a little bit, depends on they want, or there is time or not, to put a little bit what they want. When there is a space that we give to people, the mix of culture is there. So something probably interesting. I mean, for me, this film is quite interesting because at the beginning, it's from a joke that I made a couple of short films that I keep traveling in the film festival, that I met another fantastic filmmaker called Pretender. He's an Estonian filmmaker. And we just cannot stop making jokes and having fun. And one day he said, "Why not we just make a film together?" I said, "Yeah, why not? So if we can find the financement, and let's just do it." And then in 2014 he came to France. He said, "Let's make a love story." I said, "Okay, okay." I don't feel that much to make a love story between a man and a woman, but let's try something more interesting. Then I said, why not we put a huge penguin, and there's nothing above the penguin with the love story. So I tried to make some kind of test, just put different elements together and make some connections that even myself, I couldn't tell what is it. So just follow something inconscient in French, if you can understand a little bit. Yeah, thank you. I mean the feelings and what you want just guide you to somewhere. Then you found the film. That's the where we arrived. So I couldn't even tell you that much when people ask me, there is an apple tree and there is a snake lady. She's kind of quite evil. I said, I'm so sorry. Probably there is a mix above the Western culture and Chinese culture. I don't believe any gods. So. But I heard about the Bible, so I think there's little games also I put elements inside, but I didn't mean anything about the religions. So I think all those things together probably provoke some information to people, to different people. So which is interesting that we can talk about what you feel about the film. So it's a little bit long.
Yeah, really, thank you. Because the snakes reminds me of Lu Xun's article. 从百草园到三味书. Yeah. And my second question is, how do you get the first funding or another funding for your shots, and in France or from China?
Okay, in China, I don't know very well, as I worked mostly in Europe, in France. I would say, as you probably heard, in France, there is a big market or film supporting, I mean, which is called the CNC, Centre National Cinema, supporting financements. And it's every year there's different selections in different regions too, like probably in UK too, like in other European countries. So normally we have to make a document, then we just need to through a producer to ask for these fundings, and then normally we can find some short budget to make it, you know. That's what happens.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for Hefang's fantastic talk. I think it's really interesting because like in like mainstream cinema, the director just give you like everything in their minds, what they want to, what kind of story they want to tell you. But in kind of like experimental film or like alternative cinema, like the director like open this like discussion or open this perception with the audience. The audience can like see this film from their own perspective, from their own cultural background. I think it's really interesting. So there's another question from Michael. Michael asks, what animators and or other artists, Eastern and Western, have been primary influences on your visual aesthetics?
Oh, thank you, Michael's questions. Animator, well, my influence, it's quite large actually. It could be from theater, could be things that I have seen from Chinese artists, or something just in the daily life, and it's difficult to to make it very clear as answer. I think it's from daily life. I mean, it must be something it's touching me that I couldn't forget about it. So when I make films, it just jumps up. And I'm not a very big follower of the big artist. Normally, I would like to tell things more personally or more things around people and things around me. If this answer fits you well, if not, let me know more. Yeah.
Thank you, Hefang. And is there any other questions from the audience? There's one from Ivan.
Yeah, I'd like to just piggyback off of Michael's question. I mean, he was asking about where your aesthetic came from, your style. I'd like to ask if you could give us just a little more background on the story for both of these films. You know, like what kind of inspired both of these narratives, and what message were you trying to convey, you know, by telling these?
You mean in the bird flu one, or in the two different films you have seen?
Yeah, it could be both if you don't mind. I feel like one, the Banquet of the Concubine, may have been a little more based on history. Bird flu may have been more of a mythological sort of narrative. But could you just give us some background?
Yeah, sure. I will try.
Thank you.
Well, in the Banquet of the Concubine, it's kind of the ideas from quite a long time ago. Actually, I want to make something in parallels. In the stories, I try to make two parallel stories. What is happening during the pancake, and what is happening in behind of the pancake. And while I'm explaining the relation between this concubine and the emperor, and the whole history background, as you just mentioned, which was interesting for me. It's also about the point of view of our protagonist. Yeah, and it's a lady, and it's a concubine, and her anger, her jealous. That was what I tried to show in this film. So actually, this film was quite. I worked a lot on the constructions, and I had quite a problem. This film is produced by a French television called Arte. It's French and Germany, and I remember in that time most of people couldn't understand the end, and then I think was the cultural things that they were quite often ask me, why you make she so awful? Why she kills the soldier? He doesn't do anything bad. I was trying to tell them it wasn't me. I wouldn't kill anyone. It's just I feel that this woman goes to nowhere with her anger and those explosion of jealous, and things must to end by something tragic. And then I feel that in China we are quite indirect. So if you're unhappy about someone, it's really much more powerful than you. So you just try to punish his dog, probably, or someone close to him. So this end comes to me naturally that by this kind of cultural guide. But I think until the end, there is audience or some friends still told me, I don't understand why she does that, and it's not correct. So whatever film is made in that way, for the bird flu one, another one, it's when I animate the Pancake of the Concubines, and it's a story from the 700. It's really long time ago. So people moves, life is different than today. So when I was asking animators to make all those movements, they use the body language that in China we don't use. So that was the main communication between me and the team to make them understand and show them the films to make them into this background. For the bird flu, we were quite open. There is no limit. And actually at the beginning, I was feel this is just a joke. Everything I have made, there's no sense. It's just totally freedom, and I quite feel get a little bit lost because we put it's a co-direction with a pretender, so he's definitely quite open-minded, and I was a little bit less at that moment. So he just said, Hefang, just make us ideas. Then we put ideas together and let's see what kind of story we build. So in the quite beginning, I don't feel anything that I used to talk. Just like we used to talk to people, someone is waiting for someone, then someone is get angry, then what happens? But there isn't. So we just said, let's just take it easy and make fun. And then I was thinking I wouldn't even talk about this film that I made to my friends in France because I have no idea what it's gonna look like. But what is fantastic is when you are not waiting for something exactly, I feel that the result surprised myself. When he made the editing, then I just watch a film that it's quite fresh for myself, because when you make a film, especially as an animation films, it takes months and years. So you know every detail that you make and you know why you choose this short. But for this one, I really enjoyed to make it, and thank you for the fundings. Trust us that we just do it, and then we just did it, and then we watch the film as an audience, and then we get surprised. And all those mythologic symbols that we put, it's kind of provocation, if I could say that, but not in a bad way. Just what if I use it with a light, I mean, without that much meaning, and how much people is get into all those codes. So I'm waiting for people tell me what they have seen in this film.
Great, thank you, Hefang. I think that your answer is really interesting. It reminds me of because I think in both in the West or in the East, like female emotion, especially female anger, is expected to be repressed. like people like expect a good woman to be submissive, to be cooperative. So I think it's really interesting, the female figure in both of your film. So is there any other would like to ask questions from the audience? I think Barnaby wanted to ask, is it correct? Earlier, I think you raised your hand.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty much covered in your answer already, but about like influences, I guess particularly on bird flu, you mentioned that you sort of drew from like mythology, I guess, like the sort of Bible story of the fall from the Garden of Eden is quite represented with like the serpent lady and the apple. I was kind of interested if there were any other sort of historical or mythological influences in that story that I might have missed. I guess, you know, coming from the West, the Bible was the one that would like stand out to me. And I was also interested on bird flu, how the like the birdhouse and the serpent lady, in the end they sort of fall in love or join together, despite it's almost like the birdhouse changed from protecting the birds to going with the serpents. If there was any meaning you had in that, yeah.
Thank you. I still cannot pronounce your name. I'm really sorry. Well, actually, sometimes I'm thinking people are looking for a meaning that, I mean, a filmmaker doesn't have the meaning. I'm really so sorry. I didn't think that much meaning for making this film. It wouldn't be a lie if I told you a meaning now. And to be honest, it's really just, I try to just feel all those characters with the connections that I can make them together. And I really invite people to be open-minded to make this kind of conversation between you and the film, and do not wait the creator to give you an answer, because I don't have it. I'm really sorry. I knew that it's quite annoying when we used to watch films that we need a really clear ending. We need something to make kind of assurance that we understand something, that we will agree with each other. But I don't have for this film. So I have quite little to say why this film, why, how it's made. But it's more interesting for me to hear what you interpret the film that's while you're looking at it, because this is also influence for me for next work, or I don't know. So I don't know if if you have something to add, or no. Yes, please. Yeah. Even you.
Yeah, I know I already spoke, so I'll be quiet if someone else has a comment. But I don't have an interpretation, sadly, for bird flu. I'm not sure if your intention was to make Banquet of the Concubine as open-ended, but I thought it was interesting how you said earlier that when Yang, I think the favorited concubine, decided to execute the servant who was late to deliver the liches, she was almost kind of projecting her anger with the emperor on him. And I found myself kind of wondering, you know, if my thinking was right, because I'm a male watching this, you know, am I supposed to feel bad for this guy? You know, when it's the emperor, I guess, who's really slighted her. But I don't know, the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought, you know, well, maybe I'm not supposed to see any of these men as sympathetic, because they're all kind of complicit in the existence of this like larger power structure that is keeping women like Yang down. That's a really harsh thing to say, but I don't know, maybe that's one way to read it. I don't know if anyone else has other thoughts, but I don't know. They were both good films.
Thank you. Thank you for your return.
Thank you very much. I think the audience interpretation of the film, the open-ended film, is kind of one part of the cinema itself, I think. It's kind of the, like the director invites the audience to interpret the story of the film. And then we have another question from Yawen. Yawen said, could you share the production cycle of an animated short film?
Oh, you mean the production circle? Well, compare the live action. I think we used to say in live action, you make your film kind of during the editing part. You try to edit it, but in animation we make everything almost in the pre-production, because we have a step which is called animatic. As animation is really expensive because we draw pictures by picture, or we 3D people also make really different steps, and it's really a long way and it's a very expensive way, which make us, we have to decide things at the beginning before we start work. So normally we write a story like in every different film production processes, and then we need to draw the little or rough drawings to check if our ideas is it's interesting enough, it's clear enough, it's strong enough, and then check if there is no mistakes and etc., and also to make it validated by the financier and the distributors, etc. And then we start to make backgrounds and the layout. Layout is kind of where you put the character in your camera, and where you put the chair to make the beautiful pictures if you want, or make ugly pictures, and if it's the point, and then we animate. It's the most longest part in the production. Animators just like actors, but they have to draw their acting, so it's double difficulty. And then we colored for 2D traditional filmmaking. We draw lines, then we color it, then let me see what else. We have special effect, and then we have post-production. We have to make the sound design and the music from zero. Because when you film people, there's already sounds from the environment, but when you make animation, there's nothing and nothing. So you just have to make every little things from zero. And I forgot something very interesting, important. It's the dialogue recording with characters, actors that we selected at the beginning. So quite early, we record the voice. Then when we do in the animation, we just follow the voice which already record with the acting in the voice that we have to animate, making this kind of coherence. And then in the end, it's the post-production, as you just know, sound mixing and etc. Wow.
Thank you, Hefang. Thank you, Yawen, for your question. And I think Qi Zhang raised her hand earlier. Qi, would you like to ask the question?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, Hefang. Nice to meet you. It's Kiko here. Since the project is women in the film industry, my question is, as a Chinese female animator, can you share some of the difficulties or challenges you have encountered that have been memorable for you in your career? Yeah, it's my question.
Thank you. Difficulty. As I said, I feel I'm quite lucky. I didn't get not that much difficulty. But I can probably share a little bit difficulty of others. What I heard about, sometimes people think, as you don't speak well the language, of course, when you make your documents, it's always difficult. You have to ask your friends and people around you to help you to correct it. Or What else? Mostly it's the language problem, and because in France anyway, people, the French people loves different cultures. So if you have a different story from your culture, they just love it, I feel. So we're quite lucky to be here because they want to work with different people, and I don't feel there is. I really do not feel there is different. How to say that? When I ask for funding, they make me away because I'm foreigners. If they does, I think I wouldn't noticed it. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. But can you just tell me what kind of difficulty you think about?
Maybe not just difficulties. I think maybe some challenges, like funding, you said, or like, in the process of you make the animator, something like that.
Well, I think it's, working with a team, it's like you have to manage human energies together during months. So the difficulty in the teamwork, it's probably not really something above a female or male. Maybe when I make the first film, professional film, Punket of the Concubine, I was much younger than today. So my animator, they had lots of animator men. They have lots of experience, much more than me. So yeah, this is, I wouldn't say it's a difficulty. I think it's part of the work, that you meet younger people and older people, then you have different experience. That I had, what I had was, I was asking them to make something that I would like, and one 60 years old animator, I mean, we become friends after, but at the beginning, he's telling me, well, you shouldn't make in this way, it's a mistake. But I said, could you just tell me why it's a mistake? And then he told me, I have lots of more experience. I would tell you that it's a mistake. So this kind of argument, I not really accept for me. I just really need a reason, artistic reason. Someone told me why, but not because I'm older and I have more experience than you. But not every animator likes him, so I cannot make. If not, I work with Norman Roger. It's a Canadian music compositor, very famous one. I was quite scary to work with someone famous in Montreal. And I was almost thinking I would work with a young man, young one. I mean, a woman or man, doesn't really matter, because I think when we have the same level of experience, and I feel more free to ask things, but I couldn't. So finally, I worked with him, and while he was making the music, I dislike people put too much music in the film, because I think I can use pictures to tell the story. I don't need the music to make people sad, but he, in that moment, he's really a narrative compositor, so he really wants to put more music. For example, in the Punket, in the end, the concubine's face was holding by the emperor. He wants the concubines eat the lychee. It's kind of a force, a violence for me, but I don't show in the traditional way. So no one hits someone, but I just want, we feel that someone force you to eat a fruit that you don't want to eat. This is kind of a violence, and they want to put music on that. He wants to put music on that. I was telling him, I think I want nothing. I just want to hear the presence of people, And if you want to feel the breath, all those things, the skin touchings, I want to hear that. I don't want to hear a music give me this message of tensions. I think it's too much. So he wasn't agree with me. So we were a little bit angry during some, this discussion. And in the end, I think I knew that you have lots of experience, and it's really difficult for me that I don't know if I have making a good decision now or not, but I really need you just take it off and we have to listen to it. If I'm wrong, we can put it back, but please just do it and let's decide later. And then the next day he comes to me. He said, oh, I'm really glad to work with you. You are so right. I think it's better. And then I feel there's a flower opens in my mind, and I should just follow what I feel, even it was a mistake. I mean, we are not probably make only one film in our life. If I make a mistake, it's my mistake. I have to make it, and I will see in the next one. So yeah, this is just 2 times I feel I work with two men has more experience than me. You can feel this pressure.
Yeah.
And yeah, rather
thank
that,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hefang. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned the violence in the film, and also you also kind of experience this kind of, it's not violence, but it's kind of like domination or whatsoever in your creative work as well. I'm glad you fight back. So there's another comment from Michael. Michael said, I love the elegance and the grace of your films, and I wonder, have their erotic elements caused any problems with distribution or audience reception anywhere? I hope not.
I hope not too, but I never get any, I don't think get that much projection in China. So I think it does disturb some Chinese distributions. But in the world side, I think it's well received. And yeah, I go back to something interesting. There's for the erotic part, the animators are men. So this part is quite interesting. When you talk about the erotism, I think women and men, we probably I cannot answer as a man, but I imagine. We may have different visions. So when they have to animate this part, I can feel that, for example, if I think something is more sensitive for this concubines, my animator shows in his way, because probably it's his experience that he shows in quite different way. So it was quite funny that to have different vision on that. So what do you feel actually the male audience here when you watch the films? I would like to say, because in the film it's kind of this concubines as dreaming, or as she's kind of Eve and she's dreaming this kind of pleasure, physical pleasure. So I try to push in her way to feel it. But how you feel this part as male audience who is here, if you have any returns?
Oh, I just thought it was a lovely job that you did on it. And I was just imagining worst case scenario. I'm really glad that you haven't had any problems. And yeah, the elegance was what impressed me quite a bit. And I couldn't imagine any problems, and I'm glad to find out that you didn't have any. So yeah, it's both of them were just remarkable. So thank you for sharing them. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Is there any other boys want to provide some comments? Okay, so there's the one comment from Ivan. Ivan said it was amazing to see the animation medium being used so impressively.
What does you mean, animation medium?
I was already referring to the kind of fluidity of the imagery and the ways in which, in that particularly kind of erotic moment, everything goes very kind of abstract and surreal, and you're using lots of really interesting kind of like colors and just there's something very kind of swishy about it, which I found really impressive.
Okay, thank you.
I can imagine that being communicated using any other medium.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't very easy actually, because we don't want to push films to goes in that direction, becomes a little bit dirty. We don't want to make it too soft that you don't feel anything. So to find this middle way, but as a visual way, I couldn't know even today how it works for people. Maybe it works for someone, but not that much for others. So we tried a lot of things, but I connect the feelings with the food. It's not new, but I do really feel that when I make an example, I used to, when it's a pleasure moment, I used to, just like I eat a very nice peach, something like that. So the lychees as a symbol in these films that I try to use also in this part, because the fruit of lychee is white, it's soft, it's sensitive. I think the sound of the Julie sounds also can probably guide people or invite people, goes to some connections with our common life experience, that to make this to build this bridge, and also those colors to feel this when you get kind of eve of cup of wine. I was thinking, wow, when I was drinking, what kind of feelings I have, and how to put it visually to make, and then the result goes to this way. And I'm glad that you liked it.
Excellent, thank you.
And animation is interesting. Now we're making a trailer for a feature film, very erotic one, because in the live action, when you make erotic film, it's quite difficult. Because how you put the camera, where you film the body, it can really turns to something. I don't have the word. You understand me? But in animation, you can really turn it in some artistic way or abstract way. But you can still sometimes use the abstract messages and to go something more deeper, indirect, but something indirect gives space to the feelings. I don't know if you agree with me or not. So I think it's interesting to use animation to transfer some feelings that you cannot use a real picture. Anyway.
Great, thank you, Hefang. I really like the part when you use animation to represent the fantasy of the concubine. And yeah, is there any more questions? Oh, Hefang, would you like to share some of, like, is there any other like a current project, like film you are making at the moment?
At the moment, I'm working on a young audience film. It's about a French girl goes with her parents, live in Mexico, and then she discovered Mexico legends about the how to call that, Quetzalcoatl. I don't know the English word. The wind god. So it's a snake with a. It's a snake who flies on the sky. So it's above. It's more above young girls getting into a new culture and finding new friends, but for young audience. I don't make that much film for young audience. I think it's the most difficult for me because I'm not a kid anymore. To make a story as clear as possible, but not so clear because it's a little bit boring for adults to watch everything so clearly told. So I try to put my my point of view on this 9-year-old girl, and imagine that if I was 9 years old, my parents brings me to another country, how I could feel. So that's what I have been making, and we make a horror film too. So I tried to make some different genre. Above it's an adaptation of Alain Poe. It's old written. Alain Poe has write a story. I don't know if you heard about it. It's about a man lives in Iceland with his dog, but when he write, it's a kind of journey. He's writing until the date four, the author passed away. So there is no ending of the story. So I chose this one to complete the story in my way. It's a short film of 25 minutes. More above a psychology development of man. So this one I choose the man just because above this topic of legitimité, because this topic is really too how to say that, too hot. In France, I always almost get nervous because I hear too much people is told me, you're not a woman, you cannot tell a woman's story. You're not a man, you're not a farmer, so you cannot tell a farmer's story. Actually, I'm not into this, in this opinion. I think, which is interesting in the cinema is, I'm Chinese. If I want to tell a man's story, I will do the research on it. I will try to be into the character. I can get fail, but I tried. And I try to understand someone else than myself. If I only make film about women, I think it's a little bit sad. So when we start to make the film, they were asking me, oh, you sure that you want to make a man? I said, let's just do it and let's see if it works or not. So
I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of male director making like films about female, but when you are a female director making film about a man, they are questioning you if you can make it properly. This is really yeah. So yeah, hopefully we can screen your current film later when it's finished. We really look forward to it. Yeah, if there's any, is there any other questions? If no, I think we, do you want to ask questions, Yawen? No?
No, sorry.
Yeah, I think if there's no questions, we can just wrap up for today. And thank you very much for Hefang sharing your view of your films with us, and also your experience in the film and the animation industry. And thank you for the audience as well. Thank you for your fantastic questions, and your engagement is really precious. And yeah, I hopefully see you in our future events.
Thank you everyone, your time and your sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.